I'm done trying to live up to others' expectations. Family, society, class, race, sex, or religions. It's time to break free from the isms that make us feel like we're in prison. I'm ready to be unleashed as fuck. I'm ready to be unleashed as fuck. Tired of the madness, done with the sadness. Gonna break free and be unleashed.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Unleashed AF, the podcast. And it's going to be empowering. It's going to be amazing. And I'm here with my incredible co-host, Jenny Badig. Oh, I should probably tell you who I am. I am Deidre Beecham. Sometimes.
Because you are equally incredible.
I am.
You should announce yourself.
I'm a visibility catalyst. I also call myself the recovering nice girl. We'll probably talk about that at some point today. But before we get to that, let's talk about Jenny Badig. Jenny, because she is amazing, tell us a little bit about who you are.
Well, I am calling myself the inner space engineer because with my background of human factors engineering and hypnotherapy, I like to help people engineer their inner space between the ears. Engineer between the ears. Maybe that's what I should call myself.
The engineer between your ears.
Oh, there we go. I like that.
Oh yeah, and I forgot to tell you, I work with high achieving women to help them to overcome nice girl syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Today we are. We should probably tell you about. Well, see, I am really. I should tell you, I am having a little problem with my brain today, so Jenny may have to jump in here and help a lot today. But do need to tell you about our website, unleashedafpodcast.com.
Mm-hmm.
If you have any ideas for the show, any suggestions for people, either topics or people that you'd like to have on the show, please make sure that you go to the page on our site, which is www.jdd, What Would Jenny and Deidre Do? And go ahead and put it in there. Or if you'd like to be a guest on our show, there is a guest application there as well. Again, that's unleashedafpodcast.com. Go ahead and hand it over to Jenny because she's doing a little more being more competent today. And I'm going to bring up our guest while she introduces her.
Okay. So today we're excited to have Julie Jacky with us. And we've known Julie for a few years now, but I'll give everybody kind of a proper introduction. Julie is a spiritual coach, a certified practitioner in EFT, also known as tapping. She's a certified financial coach and the author of a spiritual memoir called On the Other Side. As a lifelong learner, Julie has extensively studied under leaders like Tony Robbins, Nancy Levin, Dave Ramsey, and Dr. Joe Dispenza to find spiritual, financial, and emotional freedom. A passionate self-care advocate, Julie helps stressed out clients overcome feeling stuck, unworthy, and burdened by secrets and shame. She guides them towards healing and opening their hearts to gain clarity and discover greater peace, ultimately experiencing freedom from their past. By shifting perspectives and instilling empowering new beliefs, she helps women to honor and nurture themselves inside and out. Because when we take care of ourselves, we show up better in every area of life. So, welcome, Julie Jacky. Woo!
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. When you said we've known each other a few years, it's been over 7 when we met when I was in town looking for a place to live here in Melbourne.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It was
Time flies.
May of 2017 when we met.
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we've
Met
known
at
each other
Unity,
less
which
than that.
isn't there
I
anymore.
had heard your name mentioned several times, but we only met a few years ago. Two years ago? What hasn't been that long?
I think we initially met in the networking group that Jenny and I were doing, but then I stepped out.
That's right.
I stepped out because I was knee deep in developmental edits in my book at that time. And then 2020 hit.
Yeah.
And then I was out of town for a year. And when I came back, then we met at another networking group.
Awesome.
We're reconnected. I remember our little one-on-one at Surfinista.
Yes. So tell us about EFT. I mean, I have worked with an EFT practitioner before, but for those who are unfamiliar, tell us about EFT and how you got started.
Well, EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique, and it's also known as tapping. And I got started literally, when things come to you over and over and you're like, I better pay attention. I kept hearing EFT tapping, EFT tapping. I'm like, what is this? And so I looked it up and I found a little class in my community and took my best friend for her birthday. I had no idea what it would become in my life. We were both curious and learning lots of new things. And we both had a really great experience. And then I ended up taking a course called something like weight loss and confidence it was by Jessica Ortner with the tapping solution. And when I took that, we were just tapping. So you just tap with your fingers on meridian endpoints. And what it does is calms your body inside, but it also helps reprogram you, similar to what Jenny does with reprogramming between the ears as that engineer that she is.
Yep.
So it just helps reprogram, and it helps also release the stuck emotions. EFT, emotional freedom techniques. You're freeing those stuck emotions that hang out in your body forever if your body can't process them because it's too big of a trauma or too big of an event in your life. So it just will stay there until you deal with it at some point. So when I was taking that class, that was like a 7-week course. We were just tapping for 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes in the evening, like starting the week before the course started. And my body calmed down, and I didn't even know that it wasn't calm. It just relaxed so much. I'm like, wow, there's something really to this. And the mind chatter would quiet down when I would tap. And I'm like, there's something big here. And as I was taking the course, I started having memories pop up from my past, from childhood sexual abuse stuff. And I'm like, oh crap, I suppose I have to deal with that. So yeah. So I found a practitioner in my area, and I took a EFT level 1 certification course, and I had zero interest in becoming a practitioner. I thought it was weird, and I wasn't going to be doing that. And, here I am 9 years later, certified practitioner for the last 9 years and helping a lot of people with this weird thing.
Yeah. So did you actually just work with them first, like individually, like go to them for sessions, or you jumped right into a class after doing that weight loss thing?
I jumped right into certification only to learn more.
Okay.
I thought it was really interesting. I wanted to learn more. And after that class, I'm like, oh, I'm all in. I am all in. And then I started doing some one-on-one sessions with the lady who led the class.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then going through the certification process, I had a friend in the class, like we met there, and we both were all in. And so we did weird things, like decided one day we wanted to tap for 8 hours. And so we got together for 9.5 hours so we could tap for 8 hours and see what would happen. And it really helped accelerate my learning so I can better help people get results, because I learned what to do and what not to do. You know how
Those
that
can
goes.
be valuable lessons.
Yes, they both are. Yeah.
What
Cool.
I'm just curious, how would someone know, or how would they know that what you offer is something that would help them? How would a person self-identify themselves as somebody who would need to or could benefit from working with you?
I'm going to split that question out, if that's all right, and say
Sure.
if they benefit from tapping, and then if they benefit from working with me. Because do you know anybody that's ever been stressed or overwhelmed before? Because tapping in and of itself, tapping on the meridian endpoints helps reduce cortisol, which is the stress hormone. So when we get worked up because we're running late or we're angry at our significant other or somebody in our lives, or we're procrastinating or we're putting things off that we know we really need to do, or whatever it is that we have going on, or we have this stack of things that we need to get done and we just don't have all the time to do them. Like we're overwhelmed. We have too much. All of those things you can use tapping to help you relieve. And that's just a small portion because you can use tapping for pain relief. You can use tapping to change your beliefs. As a certified financial coach, I also help people tap into their inner ATM and help them tap on money stuff. Because a lot of people have a lot of emotions around money, whether they have money or not, they have emotions around money.
Mm-hmm.
Jacky is shaking her head. She knows that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
A lot of people with that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So tapping can benefit everybody, kids, adults of whatever age, and depending on what you have going on, because the point of tapping is to get you out of that fight, flight, freeze state and get you back into your prefrontal cortex where you can plan and think and organize and speak more eloquently as well. So tapping can work for anybody. So who I focus on, I help women honor themselves. So if women have a hard time saying no, they have a hard time speaking up and using their voice and using it even in a kind, loving manner. Because some of us can use our voice, but it comes out really loud and screaming at people. And that's not always the best way to have a conversation. And we can find a calmer way from our heart. I also help women with self-care because a lot of us are used to putting other people first and put our own selves last. And so teaching women to honor themselves by putting themselves first. And that's critical. When I mentioned I was going to therapy to deal with stuff I had going on from my childhood. And my therapist said that I needed to learn to relax. I literally did not know how to relax. And one of my assignments was to sit in the bathtub and do nothing. I'm like, what are you talking about? How can I do that? I don't have time for that. And so the very first time I sat in the bathtub, I'm not kidding, I had my phone in there and I was scrolling, trying to get stuff done. And I'm like, Julie, you're not actually doing your homework assignment. You're supposed to be relaxing. And so I help other women learn to relax and that it's okay. And part of that is about calming the body because usually we're super busy all the time as a coping mechanism to stay safe because of something that happened in our past. Mm-hmm. So helping women with that. I also help women understand that they're worthy and not just understand it, but know it, because that's something that we tap on, and to release all the beliefs that stop them from believing that they are worthy. And so we clear all that out. And when you know you're worthy, you just feel different inside and you feel it
absolutely.
Yeah. And then I help women follow their intuition. And when we tap, the more that you tap, the more you get tuned into yourself and the more you can hear that intuitive voice within, and then work to clear out the fear of following it. Because a lot of people are afraid to follow their intuition when it's a bigger thing, especially. Yeah. So
yeah, I think it's tough for a lot of people to, if they're not used to following their intuition a lot, to identify the difference between intuition and those scary voices that, fear and ego and stuff like that come up. So interesting to think about using tapping. Meditation might help with that too, but it's so hard for a lot of people to meditate. So tapping is a nice alternative, I think, that pretty much anybody can do, right? I mean, it's not difficult.
No, it's not. It's super easy. We just pull out one of our hands and start tapping on meridian endpoints on our body. Or we can just tap on the side of our fingertips, and that works too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that intuitive voice, I describe it like You go to the grocery store and you get little hits like, oh, I should get some blueberries. That's your intuition, like telling you, and it's a quiet voice. So it'll just say blueberries. Whereas when you're craving something, that's a voice screaming at you, get that chocolate. Let's get some chocolate. I need that chocolate. That's
I was going to say, my voice doesn't typically say blueberries.
And it would be
Chocolate's typically what my voice says.
well, and that's not your intuition.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
a different voice in your head. Yeah. So that's the you're saying a lot of people don't know how to discern it, and it's that quiet voice that you have to learn to listen to versus that one that wants to take over and control the show. Yeah.
Right.
And for meditation that you mentioned, I actually, when I started meditating, my mind chatter was going nuts. And I'm like, I don't know how I can do this. So I started tapping at the beginning of the meditation to quiet my mind down so I could sit and meditate. So those go hand in hand. And I was doing this tapping on the face and the upper body at first. And then later on, when I was meditating, like doing more, I didn't want to do all the points. I just did the sides of the hands. So I wasn't stimulating a whole bunch of energy moving around. I was all over. I was just doing this, and that was calmer. And you don't hold your hand up in the air when you do this. I'm just doing it to show you. Just put it down by your side, and nobody even knows you're doing it, or under the table.
I believe you were talking at one point about, and I thought this was really interesting. I hope you don't mind me bringing this up, but we had a networking group together, and you were talking about how, and I can't remember if you were talking about yourself or somebody else, and the advice was that you could be in a meeting and you could feel your emotions rising, and that you could use that because it could be under the table or
Yep.
in your pocket. You could have your hand in your pocket or under the table, and you
Yep.
could be tapping. And that, so can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so first I'll show you, and then we can all just do it. I'll just cover up my face here. So you're just taking your thumb and you're tapping on the sides of your finger, and then you go to the next one, and you go to the next one, and you go to the next one, and then you go back the other way, and you just keep doing it back and forth on your fingers. And so I'm just going to stick my hand under the table now. You don't even know that I'm doing it. We're just sitting here chatting. So I have a story of when I used this to hammer it home, and then a couple other ideas.
Yeah, that's
So
great.
I was sitting next to my boss here, an employee here, and across from me was the director of the foundation. And the director of the foundation, for some reason, she was being triggered by me, and she was combative with everything I said. So I'd say something and she'd go, blah, 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 blah. And my boss would go, well, actually, and then reinforce what I said. And then she'd say something, I'd say something, and she'd go, blah, 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 blah. And then my employee would go, well, I have the numbers here and it's this. And then, but this, she kept going on. And in my mind, I'm going, what the hell is her problem? Why is she lying? What's going on? Why is she so combative? And like, Julie, calm down. And I stuck my hand under the table and I started tapping. And what that did is it just helped me calm down. It helped the chatter stop in my head so I didn't say anything or go off at her at the meeting. Like, that's not appropriate. And so it calmed me down. And then after we left the meeting, I pulled my boss aside and I said, hey, the way she treated me in there was really inappropriate, and I'd like you to say something to her. And he looked at me and he said, I had no idea you were so upset. And I said, well, I was tapping under the table. Well, it works. It calmed me down. So if you guys have ever been at a table around the holidays with a bunch of family members and you have old Aunt Betty spouting off about politics and you're like, shut up. And, like, we all have those people. Well, just stick your hand under the table and start tapping, because it's not your job to be combative with Aunt Betty. Aunt Betty is Aunt Betty. She's doing what she always does. Like, you shouldn't be surprised that she's going to do that. But you get to react differently. So stick your hand under the table, start tapping. It'll calm you down. And then you go, well, that's just Aunt Betty. And then maybe you'll think of something to change the subject, and life goes on. Like, you have a more enjoyable time because you're not reacting in that moment.
Right.
Oh,
It might
that's
be a
great.
more passive aggressive way of tapping if you actually started doing this when Aunt Betty's talking.
That's right in the
She
middle of a
might
meeting.
think something was up.
Hang on. Yeah.
Keep
Yeah.
talking. Whatever.
This is fancy. Yeah. Just keep going. Keep going. We'll be okay. I'll be okay.
I have never encouraged that, but that's one
Yeah, and I'm not trying to encourage it, just pointing out that's why there's
that's great.
different ways
That's
of doing it, because this way doesn't always work in every situation.
No, and most people don't even know what tapping is, and they don't. I mean, like they don't even need to know that you're upset. Like, they don't need to know anything of what's going on in your head or that you want to tell her where to go or like none of that. Just stick your hand on
I
the
can
table.
see this. Yeah, and I can see this being incredibly helpful in two situations. I'm thinking about for myself and for clients. Is this is fantastic for people that are in high pressure business situations, right?
Yeah.
So you're talking with either your coworker or a client or your boss, and being able to go someplace, because any one of those can be incredibly stress filled. I
Yes,
know we were talking about family, but this can also work at work, where you
absolutely.
can definitely tap yourself into a better place. I wish I had been thinking about this. I had an interaction. Jenny knows about this, but I had an interaction with a family member that I definitely could have used that, because I did end up reacting. I ended up losing my losing control a little bit. But the interesting thing is, and this is why I'm bringing it up, is I can see this being incredibly helpful for people who are dealing with narcissists, because this family member is a narcissist, and their whole thing is they feed off of
Yes,
your emotional reaction.
yes.
And I had been doing so well, but he changed tactics, and
Darn it. Yes.
oh, and I wasn't prepared for that. I had let my guard down. That was my fault. I had let my guard down out of just thinking, I got this. I got this. That was very silly. But what an incredible tool to be able to utilize and to help you to be more of, use a gray rock technique, because gray rocking on its own, I don't know if you're familiar with gray rocking. Gray rocking is what it sounds like, acting like a rock in front of a narcissist, not feeding any of those emotions, keeping your answers as short and sweet as possible. But I can see this, especially for somebody like myself who has been the brunt of that for over 30 years. Um, we have stopped communication, but being the brunt of that for 30 years, I could see where that would have been really helpful if I had been thinking about that in that case, to be
Yeah.
able to calm myself down, because I didn't automatically think of that as a place to go. So I think it sounds like a really, really great tool, especially for somebody who has those situations.
And so I make myself use it regularly. So I will use it while I'm driving. I'll use it while I'm out on a walk. Even if I'm not worked up, it's still reducing cortisol in my body, which we all have a lot of. So I'll just be on a walk, have it down by my side. I'm just enjoying or maybe processing something or talking with somebody, whatever it is. I just do this automatically when I walk because it helps me remember to do it. And at the times where, oh,
When you
shoot,
need it. Yeah.
yes. Yeah, so I use it a lot. Now tapping points, you've seen people go like this.
Sure.
They don't know why they're doing it. Well, their body is guiding them to self-soothe because these are all tapping points on your fingertips. So people do that, but also other tapping points. This is the thinking pose, right? Well, right here is a tapping point. So you're pressing on that, and it's helping soothe you. Get a headache? Tapping points. Like we use
Oh,
these all the time. We're just unaware that that's what we're doing, but our body is trying to help us soothe it. So that the tapping points, then doing it on purpose, really will help you.
Yeah, and I will tell you, it's interesting that you went there, because I was about to say, there are many clients that I work with that when I talk to them about using an NLP technique as part
Mhm.
of their hypnotherapy session, um, I explain, that it's going to involve taking some kind of physical action that's simple and easy to remember, some kind of phrase or something that you want to tie to the feeling you want to get to. And then we'll build up the emotional feeling and we'll take a few deep breaths, all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of them actually that will say, well, I do this already. They don't
Yep.
know it's tapping, but they're like, I do this a lot. I'm like, interesting. Your
Yep.
body already got you to do that.
Yep.
So, I mean, I usually encourage them to come up with something different just because if they're looking for something new and different in an experience, it needs to be different for the mind to notice it. But
Yeah.
I'm like, don't stop doing that. You can keep doing that.
Yep. Yep.
But
It'll
for
help.
this particular situation, you can do a different thing and combine it with the word or the phrase and all that good stuff. So it is interesting how we get led sometimes to the things that naturally work for us and we don't even know what to call it or why we were led to do that. It just works. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking about that myself the other day, Jenny, about how there are things that I did as a kid that were actually incredibly helpful for me that I
Mm.
stopped doing as I got older. And then those old issues started popping up again, not
Mm.
realizing that my body was trying to help me naturally get rid of those issues when I was younger. And as an older now and now learning about all these techniques, I'm like, there's so many times I make connections where I was naturally doing something that as I got older, because life,
Yeah.
and busyness and getting in the way, and then, kinda eliminating those things, and I'm loving bringing these things back in, and it's so fascinating that if we actually just key into our bodies and slow down and start paying a whole lot more attention and letting ourselves be more natural, that those things happen
Mhm.
naturally. The things
Yes.
that we're having to learn now that they're actually natural.
Well, our body's job and our mind's job is to keep us safe and alive. And so it's always doing that. And sometimes it does it in a more positive way. And sometimes over time, it can turn to a negative. Like the coping mechanism could have helped. And then all of a sudden, we're soothing, but now we're soothing and it's starting to harm us. Like
Right.
my example is I, there was a, I, this is funny. I was on a course about food cravings. I was on a call and I had the phone in one hand and my keys in the other about ready to go to McDonald's. And I did not want to eat McDonald's. Like I don't think good things of McDonald's. It's not really food in my world. But I wanted to go and I knew what I was going to order and like this urge inside of me was like pulling me there. And I'm like, why does this happen? And I realized while talking to the practitioner that it always happens when I'm stressed. And so she asked me to have a memory of McDonald's. I'm like, well, I used to work there. And she's like, well, go back even earlier. I'm like, oh, well, on Friday evenings, my dad would come pick us up because my parents were divorced. And my brother and I would wait on the end of the street and we would be jumping up and down, Dad, 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 when we could see his white Dodge Dart coming towards us. And then he'd pick us up. We'd put our clothes in there in the car and we'd head off and we'd go to McDonald's. And what did we have when we were kids? A Happy Meal. And so, though that soothed me back then, that was a great feeling. And so, fast forward 30 plus years, and I'm stressed out. What's my subconscious trying to do? It's trying to soothe me. It's trying to make me happy. So why do I keep going to McDonald's? Because it knew back then this made you happy. You connected. It felt good. You enjoyed the food back then. And so, I tapped on that and released it. And now I don't go to McDonald's. And I drive by with ease. I don't, when I get stressed, I don't have McDonald's craving. I've never had it since. So it's really powerful what our body does to protect us and keep us safe. And that can help us. And then it can also later harm us. But it's trying to do its job to help us.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Now, a couple of things I wanted to ask about how you work with people in tapping. I know you have, I'm going to put your community, your tapping community up there on Facebook. And that's something people can just go to. Is it weekly that you're tapping?
So the tapping and self-care community on Facebook, I haven't tapped in there for a while. I do have some tapping videos in there that are timeless because they're on
Oh,
topics
right.
like overwhelm and money and um, conflict relief, procrastination. So I have videos in there, and that I'm going to be starting to do videos again soon now that I'm feeling better. Yay. And have energy. Yay. The last year and a half has been a challenge, but I am like for sure heading way out of that. So I'll be starting to pick that up again. But in that group, I brainwash you for the good stuff. We talk about gratitude in there. We talk about taking care of yourself on purpose, like so you're thinking about it. It's mindset stuff in there. And then I, of course, talk about tapping in there as well and how to use that. And then so my women's tapping circle that I do on Zoom a couple of times a month. And
Okay.
so I do that the days that I do it. So it's twice a month. I do it both at 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. so people can pick which works best for their schedule. And in that tapping circle, we start off where I get you connected into your heart. We call in resources from all dimensions to come and love and light and support us during our time. Then I have people do a journal exercise so we can figure out what we would need to tap on. And everybody just brings in whatever they got going on in life. So I don't ever know what we're going to tap on. We go with the flow. And the journal exercises to figure out, well, what's going on in your life, and then figure out, we measure it to figure out where you need to start. And then I take a couple of volunteers to share whatever's going on, and we work through their stuff. And what's really cool about tapping is when we come together in a group and we're supporting one person by working on their stuff and set aside our own, it clears out their stuff that they set aside. And it's so weird how that works, but it's cool. And then at the end, I have us do a 3-minute gratitude rant. I literally set the timer. We all figure out what we're going to be grateful for, and we do a rant with all on mute, so we're not all shouting and saying stuff where you don't hear us. Some people are really quiet, and some people are speaking out loud, and whatever is going on to help them feel gratitude as much as possible in those 3 minutes. And I like to do that because we clear out all the yucky feeling emotions, and then we replace it with that gratitude. So that's how I do my women's tapping circles. And then I do one-on-ones as well and kind of go with the flow. I use my intuition comes in a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of people think
Oh, excuse me.
their mind.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I was kind of starting to get to was like you have a tapping guide, basically, like the top 10 tips for tapping or whatever, which is a lot of alliteration. And so like the physical aspect of tapping is, like I said earlier, pretty easy, right? I mean, once you've learned how to do it, where the points are, you don't need that outside help to be able to just do that. Or even what you were showing with the hand thing. You can do it on your own. It's very kind of self-empowering. But the benefits of working with someone who is not only certified, but is, passionate about doing this and helping people with it is that you bring in your intuition to kind of help guide them through the stuff that comes up, right?
A lot of us, when we're in it, like in whatever situation, we can't always see the solutions. We can't always see a different perspective. So when you're in it, you can't always get out of it yourself, especially with the same thinking that got you in it, right?
Right.
And so when you have a guide to help you, then I see different perspectives. My intuition comes in. I've worked with thousands of people, so I have all that experience where I'm like, oh, this is similar to this time. And then I'll pull out a different tool or a different phrase to say or something that will jar them to get them to shift. So I like to have people go to the women's tapping circle as regular self-care. And then when they need to go deeper, then come to me and I can help them go in deep where they can't do it themselves. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know from personal experience and from other people, coaches I've hired, therapists I've hired, etc., that it's it's so beneficial when the person that you're talking to has been there, done that, so you can come out on the other side because they can see things that because they've been through it themselves, they can see things. So we know from, because we know you, but also, filling out our form for being on the show, you have some things that you were unleashed from yourself. So would you mind kind of sharing what your experience of getting unleashed is that you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, I can first brag by saying I've been through childhood sexual abuse. I've been through divorce. I've been through bankruptcy. I felt like the black sheep in the family. There's multiple things that I've been through, as all of us have. So when I say brag, I'm like, because I
I
get on.
know. That's why I was chuckling, because I was like, so far, it's not things to brag about. But continue. I'm sorry.
That's the joke in it. Like, there's nothing to brag about there. But all of those things, because I've come out on the other side, which is a really cool book name, by the way, on the other side. Because I've come out on the other side, I can help people with all those things. But I think my biggest thing is the sexual abuse stuff that I went through from age 11 to 17. I never told anybody that I was going through that at the time. I didn't think anybody would believe me. And I also, I started being abused at age 11. So the age 11 brain does things that, adults don't understand. And we wouldn't do that as an adult. But 11-year-old, I closed my heart off so I wouldn't get hurt. And I thought I opened it. Like, I thought I was open, but I wasn't. So that helped me go through a divorce because my heart was closed. My husband didn't even really have a chance because my heart was so closed. And I didn't know that. He didn't know that. So I mentioned when I was doing that tapping course and memories started popping up.
Yeah.
That was a time, as you guys like to talk about, the bites. I feel like I got a few bites. Because I had the memories pop up when I was taking that course, and then I was taking a weekend workshop about personal story power, and I was on stage sharing a story, and I realized, like, while I was standing up there, I really wanted to take the next level, but I knew I couldn't because I knew that I needed to work through my personal crap. I knew that it was holding me back significantly from being the light and being able to help people. I didn't understand fully. It was an inner knowing. Oh my gosh, I have to take care of this. And I like pretend the sexual abuse didn't happen, and I minimized it because he didn't penetrate me with his penis. I thought, well, he didn't rape me. So other people who've been raped, they for sure need help, but I'm fine. I'm fine. But I was very wrong. I wasn't fine because it permeated every aspect of my life. And all those things that I help women with. And those are the same things in my book, that being able to say no, speaking up for myself in a loving way, in a kind way, without screaming at somebody, being able to set boundaries, doing that self-care. Those are all things that I needed to learn when I was doing my healing from that abuse. So that was a big piece of it for me. And then the bark, as you guys call it, my bark is learning tapping and going through all of that and learning to take care of myself in a very different way. And tapping is such a big part of my life. I don't know where I would be without it because it helped me. Like, literally, I tapped on the word no, because when I first was saying no, it came out so meek, like, and I could hardly say it. And then I just kept tapping and saying no, no, no. And it got louder and stronger. And I felt more confident, like, yeah, I can say no. I can say no to somebody. I don't have to do it to keep the peace or to be in harmony or because they want me to. Like, I can say no. It is okay. So I really learned that. So I went through EFT, and while I was getting certified in that, I was going to therapy, and the therapist was doing EMDR, which helped me. And I also went to horse coaching, and horses mirror back whatever you are doing. They can feel you. And so I got to practice working on boundaries with horses. And I have an amusing story in my book about how long it took me to learn that and where horses were nudging me because I didn't set my boundaries.
Wow.
Yeah. And then the big thing that I did was the forgiveness workshop where I forgave the person who abused me. And that is not easy to do. That was hard work and something I'm so grateful that I did. And people get confused about forgiveness because forgiveness doesn't mean that you condone their behavior, that they're coming back in your life. It doesn't mean any of that stuff. It literally sets you free from your past and it gives them responsibility.
I think one of the things that I didn't realize for a long time, because I had been set years ago, I had been set such a low vibration of, you know, hate and anger and then, you know, of course the repercussions from that, shame, you know, not thinking that, you know, lessening of value, and being so scared that would find out, like it was like it was my fault. There's it's really, really crazy the mental gymnastics that your brain goes through when you're dealing with this kind of stuff. And you had just made a point, and I was going to make a point on top of it, and then I started talking, and it went.
And I know.
What the heck did you just say? You just said something.
I was talking about forgiveness, and you started off talking about.
Thank you. Forgiveness. Yeah. And so I didn't realize that by hanging on to all of that, you know, I was like, well, I can't forgive him. I can't forgive him. I can't forgive. Except all that was doing was bringing me down. All that does, it was like, you know, I'm still angry. I'm still hurt. I'm still all of these things. He's off living his life. He doesn't feel any of that. What in the world? It's such a self-torture. It's a self flagellation. Even if you're not thinking you're bad, you're thinking that person's bad. It's still that those emotions are still self-flagellating. They are low vibration and bringing you down so you can't do and be the person that you're meant to be. And so, and it was kind of a different way of looking at it, but it's all the same. You know, if in order to move on, that has to happen. You have to let it go. Doesn't mean that you're like, oh, well, that was okay. That's okay that he did that or she did that. That's not it. It's going, I am okay. I am going to let this go. I'm not going to let this affect me in the same way any longer. I'm going to take a silver lining from this. What can I learn from this? And how can I move forward? What have I got? What can I be? And I know this sounds crazy, and please don't beat me up. What can I be grateful about this experience? And again, not going back and going, oh, I'm so glad that happened. That's not. Nobody is saying that's a good thing. But when you come out on the other side and you figure out how to get on the other side, what can you take from that? What do you have that you didn't have before? And let me make it clear. I'm not saying that you couldn't have those things. You know, some people are like, well, isn't that's why we don't need to get rid of that, because look at how much better women are off. For this stuff happens. Look how much better women are off. No, because women could be far better off if we've been raised lovingly than having to go through all the torture and pain and being self-flagellating and getting flagellation from others because we're in that space.
Yeah.
You have to be able to let all of that stuff go. And I'm going to stop talking so I can start making more sense. Please go on.
No, you're making a lot of sense.
Yeah, you are.
That piece about the silver lining I wanted to touch on, because we cannot get to the silver lining for real, like fully feel that silver lining and know what that is until we've worked through it.
Yes.
And so as we work through it and get on the other side of the pain, that's when we gain the wisdom. That's when we can fully experience that silver lining. That's when we can feel the gratitude. And that's when we can actually go, I'm really glad that happened. Like, this is genuine. Like, I'm really glad that happened, because I would not have gone through all of these things and be here in this moment without that.
Right.
But you
Exactly.
can't get there and really truly feel that way until you work through the muck and you dig in deep and do the dirty work of processing those emotions.
Exactly.
Yep.
Well, before we wrap up, Jenny, you want to go ahead and introduce us our sponsor?
Sure.
Or I can do. I saw you had a different banner, and so I wasn't sure if you wanted to do something special or.
Oh, no, that was different than the sponsor
Oh,
shot,
okay.
but I'll
Well,
go
then
ahead and do the
here's
sponsor
a
thing now.
word from our sponsor. We'd like to. Oh, where'd it go?
We did it again.
We'd like to mention our affiliate sponsor, Osreen Natural Skincare, a woman-owned business that offers a variety of skincare products that are 100% natural, cruelty-free, and handmade using essential oils and herbal extracts. I've been using Osreen's Earthly Healer Lotion and noticed a wound healing significantly quicker than it had been without it. You can now get 10% off any of her products by going to osreenskincare.com/unleashedafpod. That's Osreen spelled AUSRINE skincare.com. Select your products and use Unleashed AF Pod as your discount code when you check out for 10% off.
And that's why you don't show up late to the podcast.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring
yeah.
up Julie's book again to show
Yes,
people what it
please.
is. And you can go to her website, juliejacky.com. You can get that as hard copy or electronic, like digital. And she has all the different ways to access that book there. And I did read that book when it first came out, and I will say it was a great read. Very easy to read. It was well written and easy to relate to as well. Just like you were saying earlier with those tapping circles, when you bring one person forward to kind of share their situation, and other people seem to get healing even if they're not dealing with the same situation. I kind of felt that way about the book too. Just reading through the process that you went through, and all the different ways that you found to help yourself. I think as you read through that book, you find ways that those things can apply to you as well. So it really is a great book. I encourage people to check it out. Julie's done a great job with that book.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I found that even though a lot of my readers haven't gone through the same or similar with the childhood sexual abuse stuff, that we all have traumas, and there are so many things that are universal with traumas. The boundaries, the self-care, the being able to speak up for ourselves, the worthiness, like all those things are universal. So all those things are super relatable, where people can go, oh, and gain something from that and even heal something from their past.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So, do you have any final words that you want to leave the audience with today?
I think that the biggest thing, like, we all go through hard stuff. We all have traumas that we experience in childhood and on. And that while that might not be our fault that it happened, I do believe that it is our responsibility to do our personal work to heal from it. Because exactly what you were saying, Deidre, with the forgiveness piece, we can sit here and be angry at somebody for 30, 40 or more years, but that only hurts us. It doesn't hurt them. They don't even know you're angry. They've moved on. They got married. They had kids. Whatever they did, they've moved on.
You're not even in their memory. They're not even thinking about you. Yeah.
No. And so it is our responsibility to do our personal work and heal our own past so we can have the life that we really want to live.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And Jenny, do you have anything you wanted to add, or are we good to go?
I think we're pretty good to go. I'm glad that we're able to share this tool that Julie is so proficient in and so passionate about with our viewers and listeners, because like she said, it can be a very empowering way to deal with even just everyday stress.
Yeah.
So it's a great way. It doesn't have to be something where, I have to unleash myself from some huge trauma, although it works for that too. But it's just the everyday stuff to help us kind of stay on track, which is great.
Yeah. Just 5 minutes in the morning, tapping on overwhelm, or 5 minutes before you go to bed. That makes a huge difference. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us. And again, if you have any thoughts you're going to have to end it. My brain is just, what the heck? I can't even put two words together. I'm glad I've been able to say what I have said, because I think I'm
You're good. Our website is unleashedafpodcast.com. You can go there to see where we stream our videos. You can, we'd love for you guys to follow us, like us, share us, all those social media tag things to help grow the audience, because we love bringing this content each and every week just to help empower people to become unleashed. And of course, if you have any questions or any suggestions about what we could do on a future podcast, on our website, unleashedafpodcast.com, there's the page WWJDD, What Would Jenny and Deidre Do? Where you can fill that out and just give us your suggestions.
Maybe whatever Jenny does, because my brain is not working. I promise I'll have a better brain next time.
All right, let's wrap it up.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Julie. Thank you for being here with us. It has been absolutely phenomenal. And again, thank you for bringing tapping to our audience.
Yeah. Thank you for allowing me to share and be a part of this.
Wonderful. We'll see you in just a few moments. And until next time, get unleashed AF.
I'm done trying to live up to others' expectations. Family, society, class, race, sex, or religions. It's time to break free from the isms that make us feel like we're in prison. I'm ready to be unleashed as fuck.